Hi, hunters. Thank you for tuning into the Flush'em and Dustin podcast brought to you by Nick and Tyler, the boys from Ringnecks and Retrievers. In this podcast, we will talk about guns, dogs, gear, and our successes and failures in the field through our combined 40 years of experience. We speak with hunters just like you from across the nation about their days in the field and the many memories they built with their friends and family. We are excited to have you listen. Now let's get to Flushing and Dustin. Welcome, hunters. Nick and Tyler here with Ringnecks and Retrievers, the Flushing and Dustin podcast. Tonight we have Matt Mosier here. We had the pleasure to going up to Clayton County and hunting in some of Matt's hot spots. So we're going to talk to Matt about how he got these spots, what he's looking for, types of fields, types of grass, food plots, things of that nature. And with that, Matt, I know you've been on once before, but why don't you give a quick introduction, and we'll go from there.
Hello, everybody. Again, thanks, guys, for having me back on. Tonight, I think it's going to be fun. We're going to get to bullshit quite a bit. Last time it was more formal, and we talked about training dogs more. And obviously, we might end up there. We don't know, but yeah. Matt Mosier, I'm a canine handler for some of you guys may know, up here in Clayton County, Iowa. But I love hunting pheasants. Been hunting pheasants for a long time and got started at a young age. So.
Yeah, and for listeners that don't know, Matt and I, Nick here, we grew up as neighbors, and we used to hunt years ago. And then, we both went off to college, did that thing, and kind of separated there. And, now our passion for hunting birds is coming back. And, I haven't hunted with Matt in, I don't know, what would you say, 10 years maybe now? Something like that. It's been a while.
Oh, at least.
Yeah. So it's fun to get back out there and pull the trigger with Matt this weekend. And we're already planning for some more hunts in the future. Matt's got a great dog, Hawkeye. He's a little over 1 year old, and yeah, he did phenomenal this weekend when he was with us. And Tyler's dogs did great again. Tyler missed a bunch of birds like always.
Only two this time. Only two, but I did hit the first one. No, actually, the first one that got up. Let's talk about that one, Nick.
Yeah, so
the very first bird.
Very first bird. Nick missed it. Matt has us out here on. It's on some back gravel roads, and actually, I was lost. And I'm from the area. I didn't really even know where we were at, to be honest with you. But some back gravel roads, really nice laid out land, corn across the one side of the gravel, CRP, corn in the far back. We come walking in, I don't know, probably the first 100 yards, not even that much. And Diesel goes down the ditch to where I can't see him, but then he gets up on the gravel road, so I'm calling him off the gravel road, right? Because I'm like, oh, get the hell off there in case a car comes. Well, he shoots back down in the ditch, and like I said, when he goes down in there, I can't see him. He gets back down in the ditch, I'm thinking, well, what in the hell is he doing? I'll be damned if he didn't flush a freaking bird. I wasn't ready and started shooting, so I had the first miss of the day within the first, 2 minutes of the hunt, and it was like, oh, geez. So, yep. So Nick had his first miss of the year.
Man, I tell you, the one thing that I thought was super cool, obviously the land that you have, Matt, is amazing up there. We appreciate the farmers, and the people that own the land for putting it in CRP and taking care of it, and obviously allowing you and you allowing us to go with you. So we definitely appreciate that. But the one thing that I thought was cool is we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dogs, right?
Yeah.
We had 5 dogs, and when we entered that first field, man, if there was anything in front of us, it was definitely getting up because those dogs were back and forth. I mean, you could tell they were having a heyday. And I've never hunted with 5 dogs before. The most I've ever hunted with is 3.
Yeah.
So that was super cool. And, it's always kind of fun too, watching other people's dogs work, and I got to see Matt's dog, Hawkeye. This was the first time I have met Hawkeye and got to go out with him, and, got to see him lock up on some birds. And there was a few birds. Matt was the hen magnet that day. I mean, you had some come up literally right underneath your pants, which scares the shit out of you when that happens. But it was cool, watching Hawkeye and they didn't flush right away. A lot of times the dog will work them, and it doesn't take long from the flush, but he was actually having to do a lot of work, and it was cool watching such a young dog not give up on the bird scent. Like, he's young, and I probably fall victim to it too. And I'm, with a younger dog, and when my dogs were young, you'd think they're birdie, and then, it's 15, 20 seconds go by and no bird flies up, and you're like, oh shit, there must not be something there. And then right when you let your guard down, the bird flushes. And I thought that was cool watching Hawkeye work those birds.
Yeah, and he did a great job. I mean, there was a couple times even I saw the dogs would go through there, and then a second later the hen would get up. It
Yeah.
was crazy how tight some of those hens were sitting. One time he came by me and he was birdie as heck and dove in there, and right over top he went, and no bird. And then a hen came up, looked like it shot out of his ass. But I actually, there's times where I thought that I wish that Hawkeye he gets so distracted where he'll be in odor and be birdie, and then somebody will holler something or talk to him, and it's just like, oh, what, squirrel, where, so he forgets what he's doing. But so I wish he'd stay in order even longer, and I think that will come with time as he gets older. So.
Oh, I think for sure it will. I mean, I think I can remember experience that with Diesel. Even he was a little younger than Hawkeye, but way back when I shot a bird, and it must have been 10 feet from us, and I shot it, and he didn't even go and like pick it up because he heard somebody else whistling, and there was a bird just like right here. And I was like, "What are you doing?" But now that would not happen. He would go retrieve everything. So yeah, I think it's just a growth process there.
Yeah. So Matt, what do you, obviously you have some pretty good ground that you get on. What's something that you kind of are looking for when you're driving around, and obviously you got to go up. I think it probably helps that you're from that area, go up and ask farmers. But what's something, for our listeners that, if they're coming to an area and they're going to scout around and maybe see some private ground, what's something that a couple tips you could give them to maybe help them get on some private ground?
So I always kind of look for three things, I guess. One is cover, and then the amount of cover that there is, or maybe close by. So I think that's important. Obviously, the cover that you have to have is, and I'm not saying that everything's got to be, super tall or super thick, but just the amount of cover. That second field that we hunted wasn't really a lot of cover. I mean, there wasn't really that much thick grass, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit. But so cover, and then food source. You got to have food source, and I guess you could add water with food source, so food and water, and then obviously you got to have the grit. They like gravel roads, or maybe it's a long farm driveway going back, and my job driving around the county, I'm lucky enough to see pheasants sometimes, and I like to really check the crop border. So like if it went from the cover to the crop right on the border or the fence lines, when I drive by, I look right down the fence line or right down that border, and that's where I usually see the most of my pheasants. And then I know if I see one pheasant, there's more, so it's a good spot.
Oh, for sure. And Matt, I think the tail of it too is, the pheasant population is coming back, but I don't think the pheasant population was that good up in Clayton County until maybe this year or last year with those lighter winters. And I was amazed all the amount of birds we saw up there. Because usually, they're on flatter land. And for those of you listeners that don't know, Clayton County, we call it God's country because it is hills and valleys and beautiful trees. And, it's crazy up there. Not necessarily a pheasant country. You wouldn't think of it as that.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially, when you think of, like you said, pheasant country, you think of out western Iowa flat, South Dakota flat, North Dakota's flat, and Clayton County that's where the big old whitetails of Iowa are. You got the Mississippi River running close through there. But I was in the birds that we got. Man, they were some stud birds. The tail feathers on them, the spurs on them. I mean, just big birds, and the bodies in general. So I mean, they were definitely healthy. There was some hens that got up, and people would say hens, and I'd be like staring at them like, dude, that is a big ass hen. That looks like a freaking rooster, with as long a tail feather and just how big the body was.
Tyler could have shot one to hit it anyway, so it wouldn't matter.
Yeah. Shit would have happened. Shit, the one bird that I missed, well, one of the two or three, whatever it was, the one that I missed, it sucks when you're walking one way and then, it's gets up in between two people, and then it flies behind you, and you got to try to do a turn around quick, and then you got to catch up to it, and miss that one. And then my dogs, obviously, they go through the fence line because they see me shoot and they see the bird. And I'm pulling the fence open, and a goddamn rooster gets up as I'm just sitting there trying to get my dogs to come back through the fence. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, if they would just listen. It's it's so frustrating. It's like, what the hell? We're sitting there because we had to move slow as tight as those birds were sitting in that first field.
Yeah, Matt, one thing that I'm going to compliment you on, and I think you did a good job with the whole group of this, is slowing the pace down.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that normally when Tyler and I hunt together, we're usually burning through that field pretty freaking fast, keeping up with our dogs. And, I would say a field like we hunted right away Saturday morning there, I bet we would cover that in an hour, and it took us 2 hours. We didn't get done till 10 there, which actually I think was the absolute right play.
And we had how many guys? 6 guys?
Yeah.
6 guys, yeah. So we had a decent amount of guys to cover, and we combed it pretty well.
Yeah, I think, and it was obviously that we saw hens sitting tight. So obviously the slower you go, the more we can let the dogs work. And we had the dog power to let them work and do their thing.
Yep.
And so that was, I think that was beneficial. And the other thing is, like, for me, I kept watching. I like watching other dogs work because I like to see how they work. So there was a lot of times where I'd kind of get distracted on where my dog was going because I was watching someone else's dog, and I think sometimes that I slowed myself up by watching all them other dogs work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was kind of the field was it was a tough field. The first one was kind of a tough field to walk, without like pushing birds out, and I think we experienced that on the fence line, but we had to do that because we didn't want to push birds to where the house sat, and I think that kind of helped us slow down a little bit too, because we saw some birds getting out on the end. And so we had to sit there and, we rethought our strategy, came up with kind of a new game plan, and we kind of like worked our way in a circle, to stop them from getting out. So people were sitting, walking slower while the other people kind of got out and around and bringing things together. And it worked out, but obviously we didn't capitalize on the birds that we saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw again, in that spot, we saw plenty of birds. And the sun played a factor, too, on how we walked that, too. Right away in the morning, we knew looking at the field from the road, we knew that the right side of the field was going to be, the east side of the field was going to be the best side where we thought we were going to see the most birds, and we did.
Yep.
We didn't want to hunt it right away because the sun was right in our eyes. And when we came back to that side later, I know a hen got up in front of me, and I hollered right away. I don't know what it is. I'm like, I can't see. See. It was a bird, just couldn't tell if it was a hen or a rooster.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that was like when we came around. So after I missed my bird right away, we came around and went up that hill, and we came back down, and we came back up to that other hill there. It was Diesel and I believe Tyler's dogs. I don't know if Oakley was in there or not, but Diesel and they were working right up on top of that hill, and a rooster gets up between Tyler and Josh. And I sit there and I'm like aiming and waiting for them just to drop it. By that time, it was too far out for me. And I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Oh, I couldn't tell what it was, And Tyler didn't load his gun.
No, my gun was loaded. No, my gun's loaded, but I keep hitting that there's a button. So on the bottom of the A5 Sweet 16 to keep the whatever pulled back, your slide pulled back, there's a button that you push.
It ejects a shell into the magazine.
Yeah, and I keep hitting, for some reason, I keep hitting that button like when we're walking, and I don't notice it. So then when I pull up to shoot, the firing pin, it just clicks, but the firing pin won't go to hit the shell. So then I pull up and go click, and then I gotta rack it quick. And then by then I'm all flustered, and the fucking bird's so far out it doesn't matter.
I think we need to do a poll. Would you rather have your gun have 2 shells in the magazine and not go off, or would you rather just forget to load your gun? I think I'd rather just forget to load my gun.
I mean, we've all done that. I did it even later that day. I didn't have my gun loaded. But everybody else was shooting and that bird dropped, which that was cool.
Yep. And Matt ended up, he got a new gun as well this year, and I think he's liking it pretty well from the sounds of it.
Yeah, so I bought that Winchester SX4 12 gauge,
Yep.
26-inch barrel, and love the gun, love everything about it. The only thing I struggle with is it does pattern a little high, and so I got to put the bead just underneath the bird, just aim at its feet, if you want to say.
Yeah.
So first few weeks of the year, I struggled hardcore. So I ended up shooting 3 boxes target loads at some clay pigeons out at my mom and dad's, and hopefully fix the problem a little bit. So I know I'm a lot more confident with the gun, and I know that I can hit stuff now that I was shooting clay pigeons. So get a clay pheasant, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're super nice guns. Like I said, I have that 20 gauge SX4, and I love it. Handles nice, but I was having the same issue for whatever reason. Like you said, it must just be the make and how they made the gun.
Yeah.
It sounds like. So I actually went to a gunsmith, talked to, so he could make sure it wasn't me, that it was the gun that was shooting high and that kind of thing. And he said he actually claims that his Benelli, and he's I don't want to use the word professional, but he does a lot with competition target shooting.
Yep.
And he says his Benelli does the same thing. He's got to aim underneath the clay pigeon or the bird. I'm not talking a foot. I'm saying just drop your bead just underneath the bird.
Yeah, you gotta aim a foot to a foot and a half below this bird, otherwise you're not getting it.
It's almost like just putting your bead, like having the bird sit on your bead type of thing. So
yeah.
But anyway, I went when I was out at his place. I patterned it again, and again I had more confidence, and then it helped from Saturday. I only shot one bird that pounded it. I thought it pounded it and hit the ground and flopped up, and then took off flying on us. And then
yeah, I couldn't believe that one got away on us.
Yeah, that was a perfect little field too.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, how many acres do you think that is? 40 maybe, if that.
Yeah, I think it's quite a bit. I was gonna say probably half of it.
Yeah, and it was just like a little bowl.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, you were walking on the fence line. I don't know what was next. Was corn next to that fence line, or was it just hayfield?
No, yeah, so it was corn on the top, and then when we turned the corner, it was hay. But
Yep.
yeah, as soon as we stepped in, I think I had all 5 dogs kind of. Then Rooster probably took off running down the fence line, and then kicked up to my left, and I shot the bird. And actually, when it dropped, it hit the gravel, hit the road, and flopped around. Was doing the old crappie flop, and I thought for sure it was a dead bird, and it flopped into the ditch, and then jumped up and took off flying. Set of swings, and we finished. Nick took Diesel over there to look, and then we came back, and I said, well, it'll wherever, maybe there wasn't a spot for it to really go. So then we just let it finish our hunt, which didn't take us very long. Obviously Nick shot another bird, but then once we got finished, we went over there and looked, and I took Oakley and Hawkeye over there, and we walked that whole top terrace and didn't find anything. And there's 3 other terraces down below, and then another kind of a waterway, and we didn't have permission to hunt that ground, but we looked, and couldn't find it. So
Yeah, that's the worst. Injuring a bird, it's going to die and it's not going to get away. That's the worst part.
yep.
Um, you just like to get that trophy there of that bird. It was a nice bird too. Looked like it had a really long feather,
Yeah.
tail feather on him.
No, for sure. It was a super nice bird. But yeah, we walked that whole thing around, and I was kind of walking up on a hill, and Nick was way down below me,
Yep.
and there was like a huge terrace water break in there, and I could see from my point of view. I said, Nick, I said, make sure you climb up over that, because I said it looks really good on the other side, and I'll let Nick kind of finish the story from there.
Yeah, and I came up, and Diesel's obviously ahead of me, and he kind of jumps down in there, and I don't necessarily know that Diesel had any scent at the time, but the noise of Diesel going through that brush, rooster kicked up right to my right hand side. I put a smoking on him, knocked him right down. Diesel did a great retrieve and brought him right back. So it was a good way to end. That was our last field of the day. So it turned out to be really nice. We ended up getting, was it 4 birds,
Four
I believe,
birds. Yeah.
total on the day. Like I said, we should have had maybe 3 or 4 more, but still.
Yeah, I think most birds probably 10 more.
What what's that?
We should probably had 10 more, or not 10 more, but 10.
Yeah.
10 total. Yeah, we probably should
Yeah.
have had 10 total for sure. Shooting just, for everybody just wasn't on point, unfortunately. But the second field we went to, huge monster field. And Matt got permission. And Matt, what's your conversation like when you're going to ask some of these farmers to hunt? I know a lot of guys are just sticking right to the public grounds because maybe they're afraid to go ask. But how are you approaching it? What are you doing? Maybe there's some advice you can give people going first time asking farmers to hunt the ground.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Tyler mentioned it earlier about what up here in Northeast Iowa, it's whitetail country. It's big buck country. So like right now, the rut is, on the tail end of the rut. But so a lot of times people don't want anybody in, whether it is CRP or whatever it may be, they don't want anybody around to think they're going to scare the big buck out or ruin someone's bow hunt. I'm agreeing with that. But usually when I just ask the people, hey, do you allow anybody to pheasant hunt to your property? And then usually from there, you usually get yeah, I do, but it's my brother's kid, and he hunts,
Yeah.
or it's no, we want the pheasant population to get back to where it used to be, which we all know that isn't always the best thing to do.
Yep.
But then you get yeah, no, yeah, I do, and what would you like to hunt? Or then I try to explain, and usually the farmers, they know exactly what you're talking about when you say, I want to hunt across the road from such and such corner, and they're like, oh yeah, no problem, go ahead, go have at it. A lot of times people do, want to make sure, like, hey, could you just shoot me a text when you guys go in, and
Yeah.
let me know how you did, and let me know when you leave, type of thing. So
And Matt, to find out who these people are now, Grant, I know you're up there, and your job allows you to know a lot of people. Um, but you're using the LNX Hunt app to see a lot of these properties too, aren't you?
I am. I actually had to take a little Corona vacation, my COVID vacation, and that time I signed up for OnX Hunting, the hunting app, and it's been worth it. It's been worth it. Like, wow, like I can't believe how awesome it is. I mean, especially in Iowa, they have that new walk-in hunting area,
Yeah.
walk-in areas and stuff, and that.
Yeah, Hapland, I think it's called.
Yep, yep,
Yep.
and so that's been awesome. But yeah, so that helps out a lot. Heck, I even helped a buddy. He shot a deer with his bow, and we went and we used that map to find our way back out. It got dark on us, and we used the map on my phone to find out where we were to the best route to get back to the four-wheeler. So
Jesus.
there's a lot of things that you can use that app for. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely recommend OnX. And they're not even, I don't think you guys are sponsors. So
Nope.
No.
Nope, not at all. We
It's
use it for South Dakota.
yeah.
Actually, I pull it up when we're out there driving around. I always pull it up on my iPad, so we got a real big picture of it, and we can see where we're going.
Yep.
And that, I mean, on your phone it's great too, but it almost brings a whole nother dimension when you can look at it on, a 12-inch screen and kind of see where everything is and mark it down. That
Yeah.
actually helps a lot too.
It's super nice. You can put a point on, where you saw a bird or, um, you know, something of that nature. So if you come back to that area, you remember that field, and I mean, you can put a pinpoint down to, let's say you're walking someplace in the field and you run into a cattail slough or something and 4 or 5 birds get up. You can put a point down right on that on the map and put the date down and just say like bird flush or something, and you'll always have that for in the future when you're looking to hunt places or you come back to the area. And so it's a pretty cool feature of it, and it's just crazy that, you can just click on it, have the name, address of where these people live, to go knock on their door if they still live there, if they're not vacant, and it's pretty legit.
Yep.
I remember back, when we first started going out to South Dakota, I don't even know if there was internet. Heck, uh, but
you ain't that damn old.
Yeah, Jesus.
They just had flip phones. That was all we had.
there definitely wasn't smartphones. But we would go out and we would. So first thing you did is you went and got the Atlas book at Cabela's in Mitchell, South Dakota, and we had. I bet we still have it somewhere, but that thing is like a raggedy old thing because we would circle all our good spots, and
Yep.
then we would come back and we knew what spots we had to hit, and obviously it started to narrow down. But now with these pins on OnX, you literally are. It does the same thing. Back in the day, you had to have a pen to circle everything. Now you just tap with a finger and you got that and take notes and
Did
mark.
you guys hunt private ground when you're out there, Matt?
We had one farm that we hunted private. The rest was all public.
Okay. And now back to that question. Are you giving these farmers are you smoozing them? Are you giving them a bottle of whiskey or something if they let you hunt your land, or you just
Um. So
handshake and here's a pheasant and appreciate it type thing?
yeah. So last year was the first year that I really got back into pheasant hunting up in our area and in this neck of the woods.
Yep.
I would say that I was hunting private ground again. In the past we'd go out in Iowa and we'd hunt public, and because again, Nick said in the beginning, Northeast Iowa just wasn't the best pheasant population. I mean, around. But anyway, so yeah, I do offer. We make our own. We process our own deer. So like a thing of deer sticks or
Yeah.
a bottle of homemade wine.
Yep.
That goes a long way. Or just even a gesture of sending them a thank you card in the mail. I mean,
Yep.
again, with OnX Hunting, you got their address right at your fingertips. Especially their mailing address. You can just send it in there, and you can send
It's
them.
so crazy. It's so crazy that you can just get on this app and freaking Bob Brown lives over here, and it's like
It
shit.
is crazy.
Got his address. Does he give his phone number too? I guess I can't remember.
No.
And back, when first started the sheriff's office, like everything was done with a plat book, so it's the same principle. They just use technology to their favor, and
Yep.
it's really a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. So Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about the second field that we went to? It was a big field, had some terraces in it, and then a little bit about that first bird that nobody was going to let get away.
Right. So the first field, we knew about that field. Like we had hunted that field last year, late season, and it was just me and 2 other buddies, and we saw birds in there. We knew that we seen a lot of birds scratching in the field. Well, after the season, we knew there was a lot more birds in there too, because we see them scratching in the field and stuff. So the second field, I actually got permission last year to hunt across the road from where we were.
Yep.
So I knew that there's that big section, but we never hunted it before. So I had no idea how good it was going to be. And it was pretty much, I'd consider that a square half section maybe. Here in Clayton County, we don't really have sections because of the hills. Like
Yep.
nothing's mile by mile.
Yeah.
So it was pretty close to being half a section. But like I was telling, we were talking earlier, like that grass was a really light grass, and it was actually from the road. It doesn't look as thick as when you're in there. It's good cover though. When
It is
you
good
Mhm.
cover.
Very
got
good.
walking, it was really good cover.
And some of that's kind of my, when it's cold out and the birds are in that type of grass and it's knee high like that, so that's my favorite to hunt in.
Oh yeah.
That golden brown, not too high, not too thick, and it's just like easy walking. There's just birds all over in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was like a mowed. I don't know if it was really a waterway, but they had mowed like a triangle, like a corner. They more or less had a corner cut off or to the whole field. So we went there first, and hunted that, and right away we kicked up a big rooster right away. And I think everybody shot at it. It was kind of
Yeah.
got up in between everybody and then flew where everybody could shoot. So I'm not sure everybody shot it. I think Josh was messing with his cell phone, but
That was on the
That
second
was on the
bird, I
next
think.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
that was on the next one. So then, so then we shot that rooster. I think again with that grass, I think the three of the dogs, Tyler's dogs and Nick's dog, were right on it for the retrieve. And then, well, yeah, so that was fun. And then it was kind of tough because then it was really big and a lot of terraces, and we couldn't spread out far enough to hunt it all at once. So we just we walked all the way to the top towards the road and then pushed it back to where if anything, we kicked up anything else, we were hoping that it flew back down to where we just started.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of did a switchback, if you will, almost. I think we went down, then back, and then down, and then back,
Yep.
as if it was a switchback to hit the terraces well enough.
Yep. And weaved it back and forth through there, and it worked out good. I mean, I think there was times where I'm not sure if birds ran up to the terrace where we just were, because it seemed like we were kicking birds up where we just walked sometimes,
Mhm.
So it worked really well, and well, when we got to the top side, we had a really nice hen flush.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, that was nice.
And
Was
the
it 5
dog,
of them, I think?
yeah, it was a good popcorn flush where it was just
Yep.
pow pow pow, and then it was kind of fun because the dogs were tired. The dogs they were gassed because that first field kicked their butt. It really did. I mean, that was some thick stuff, big field, and then we got to the second one, which is even probably bigger in size, but the grass wasn't as thick.
Yeah.
But anyway, the dogs were tired. You could tell they're tired. But once they got into that odor, that scent for them birds, there was a lot of birds there. Because I think we even had kicked up some hens just prior to that, before that big flush.
Yep.
Yep.
You could see the energy in them dogs pick up, and it was pretty neat. All 5 of them dogs were just going.
Yeah. I mean, they automatically forget that they're tired, and they just boom,
Right.
another
Yeah.
gear, another
The drive
notch.
kicks in, and
Yep.
So then we had the big flush on the top, and then we, like Nick said, we switched back and forth through the terraces and got down to the bottom. And on probably the third terrace down, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think so.
We Tyler's dog's right on top of a big rooster, and I didn't see it flush, so you can.
Yeah. So we're walking, and so they said Josh's name. Josh is Nick's sister's boyfriend. But he was off to my left side, and I think Nick, you were right on my right side.
Yeah, I was actually the terrace below you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm kind of like on the ridge of this terrace. Me and Josh are in between, and there's a terrace on the left side of him. We stopped for a sec. I don't know. We were kind of standing there a little bit, barely not moving too much. And I hear him get his phone out, and I can hear Siri or whatever. I don't know if he has an iPhone or what it is, but he's asking it a question or sending someone a text message, text message.
He talks text all the time.
Yeah.
That's
So
what he does.
Talk texting, and I can hear it like dinging and whatever the phone was saying to him. And I'm looking at Murph, he's right in front of me, and all of a sudden his tail starts going crazy. I'm like, oh, there's got to be a bird here. And Josh is sitting over there, still hear him on his phone, and a rooster flushes up. He's obviously didn't shoot at it. Nick and I got a good shot on it, knocked that one down.
We don't know who hit it either because we both
No.
use Boss ammo. So
Yeah.
16
And
gauge as well.
my friggin' GoPro was pointed too far down, so I got the flush, but I didn't get the actual shot. So either way, dead bird. Pretty funny, but yeah, it's just funny. Josh sitting there, literally Siri's talking to him, and bird flushes up, and doesn't get a shot at it. Would have been a nice shot for him too, because it
Would
was
have been a
going
great
basically
shot.
straight away from him. It was kind of a side shot for me. So,
Yeah,
and
I even had to take a crack at it. I shot.
sometimes you just got to let the lead fly.
I got
Pray and
that
pray.
stuff. I ain't gonna get any better shooting if I just don't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
I bought 100 and boy, it'd be 140 shells of that Boss ammo before season this year, and I'd be damned if I got like 60 shells left.
Oh,
Yeah, we were talking about that today.
It's like I was
I'm
like,
like,
I didn't think I was shooting that much, but turns out I'm letting them fly too.
I tell you what, my buddy Jack that was with us, he was giving me shit because I bought I bought 2 boxes of Boss ammo, and I've held on to one just in case I do make it out to South Dakota late season. But I shot 2 boxes of shells the first 2 weeks of this season. And he goes, "How many birds you got to show for that?" I said one. One bird for like 2 boxes of shells. But there was a bunch that when we were opening weekend, we went up north, up in Winnebago County, and there was a lot of birds that got up that we shot, and where multiple guys had shot or shot at the same time. So I can't say that I only shot one bird.
yeah. How did your opening weekend go?
It was good. It was so hot and windy, but there was a lot of birds. And again, we got invited to go up. Me and my buddy, it was actually Jack's friends. We got invited to go up there, and they're awesome hosts. And there was a big group of us right away in the morning. I think we hunted with 9, and we had, we talk about dogs. We hunted with a bunch of dogs, but the property we hunted was so big that it like way bigger than what we had hunted
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like all the dogs weren't all right there. They were pretty spread out, so it didn't seem like you had that many dogs. But I think we shot 12 that day, and I think we shot 7 or 8 of them out of the first field.
Oh wow.
Wow.
So it was a good day. It was a lot of fun. We seen a 40 bird flush that got up a little bit ahead. And that's pretty good again for this area. That was really awesome.
Really good.
Again,
Yeah.
guys, them guys grew up there. They knew people, knew land.
Yep.
So that really helps. It was good. It was a good day.
Nice.
Yeah, Matt, you weren't able to go, but it'd have been nice to have you. But Tyler and I ended up going Sunday with my buddy Damon, and Damon as well. But his family has a bunch of ground, and they ended up putting in the 10-year program. So I think this is the 6th year it's been in there. They haven't let anybody hunt it until this year, and well, Damon best friend, so he allowed me to go, and he's only going to allow me to go. But I don't know, Tyler, how many birds? You think we saw 80 birds?
Oh man.
We
There
saw
was
so many birds, maybe 100 birds. It was insane.
Yeah. I was watching my GoPro video after later that day, and there's one section to give you guys an idea. So we pushed basically a whole field to the end to a cornfield, and there's a finger that comes up, and then if you look off to the left, if you're going straight and you look off to the left, imagine just a square field, probably 20 acres
Yeah,
of
I'd say.
switchgrass, where this finger split it off from the main switchgrass field.
Yep.
So we pushed all the way to the end, and we're standing there, and all of a sudden these birds just start running out of the grass into this.
You're literally seeing them run out of the grass to the other field.
Just look like little mice running across the field, I'm like, holy shit, there's going to be a lot of birds in here. So what we did is we came around the other side and started pushing back towards where the birds ran into. So basically go head on with them and put up a couple blockers. And I watched my GoPro, and I was just standing there, and I even said on it, I was like, there are so many birds, I don't even know what to look at. I'm like, they just kept getting up, and they were like circling you, like they were just getting up everywhere. So the hen would get up, and then all of a sudden the rooster would fly up behind you, and by the time you knew that it was even a rooster and where it flew up at, because there were so many birds, it was already too
Yeah,
far to shoot. I'm like,
and then
Jesus.
Damon, Josh, and Tyler were pushing towards me and Joey. And God, Joey and I should have been spread out a little bit farther. Ah, son of a bitch! It's like the roosters knew where we were at, and they were flying way out, and we couldn't get
Yep.
a shot on them. But even before this happened, we walked up Damon's gateway and walked into the drive, and literally we were getting like kind of lined up to go. 3 steps in, diesel points. I'm like, Damon. I'm like, he is locked. I'm like, there's a bird there. 5 or 6 hens flushed right out of that. Him locking up, and then unfortunately Oakley got away on us, and kicked up 3 roosters right at the end of this little patch. So we should have had
Yep.
3 roosters right there at the end of this patch. So yeah, I mean, and then we walked farther down this way, and I don't know, and that where Joey shot his bird, I don't know, what would you say? 40 birds got up out of there. We were just sitting there, and they're just flying up out in front of us.
Yeah,
Just
I
boom,
couldn't
boom, boom,
really.
boom.
Yeah, I couldn't really see because I was over top of the other hill, but I did hear everybody. I just heard hen, hen, hen,
Yeah,
hen, and then there was a couple roosters because I heard a few shots. But yeah, it's a good feel. I mean, it's like you said, it doesn't get pressure. It's nice switchgrass, thick cover. I mean, there's some places, and especially like up there, I've noticed that it's almost better to wait till you have snow
it is.
because
Absolutely.
the stuff is so thick, and it's like you can't see your dogs. Um, Trying to walk through it, it's standing, as high as you are, and it just makes it super tough.
And we ended up ending that hunt early. We ended up losing Oakley fucking 2 times. One
Oh,
time we had to walk backwards and go find him, and finally we luckily by walking we found him. And then the last one, if you guys don't know, this field is, oh, I don't know, 150 acres. It's fucking huge, and we lost him in that field. And you got Josh just Oakley, Oakley, Oakley. He's just fucking yelling for him like this is annoying. So we had to go back and hop on 4 wheelers and drive through the grass, and luckily we freaking found him.
yeah, in a cut waterway. He was just
Yeah.
laying down.
I
Ugh.
will,
Well,
I will have to give Oakley his props though, because Oakley locked up tighter than a popcorn
That
park
was a good point.
that
That was a
first
very good point.
Saturday, and that should have been a dead rooster, but there was obviously another miss there, and we can't even blame Tyler for that one.
no,
Nope.
it was not
Nope.
Tyler's fault.
Another guy, but the
I
dog,
did shoot at the thing though, and I did miss.
but but yeah, Oakley's got all kinds of energy, and we let him come along because he's kind of like that. He's just like that.
Shit, he's 10 years old, but he has more energy than
I know. He's just
Duncan
kind
Rowe.
of that buddy that you always got to include, even though he kind of always screws everything up for you.
That's how I feel about Tyler.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just fucking with you.
You guys see that snow on the ground though this morning.
What's that?
Oh man, I know.
You guys see that snow on the ground?
So did you get out?
No, I didn't.
I saw your Snapchat or whatever it was, and
Yeah,
I was
your
like,
post.
did he get out this morning? I was like, oh, I'm
Well,
jealous.
that field there, literally, I took a picture of it, but I watched 4 roosters and a couple hens dance around in the cornfield surrounding that all morning.
Ugh.
Every time I drove by, because it was near our, don't want to hotspot anything, but it was near our sheriff's office, and so just driving to calls, pulling cars out of the ditch this morning, there was they were just happy as larks. It seemed like running around in that snow this morning.
So now, Matt, this might be an obvious question and a dumb question, but trying to appeal to all users, and I know my take on it, and I know what Tyler thinks. But why don't you give us a rundown of what you think the colder weather, the snow does, especially getting to that late season, and how those conditions you think can help primarily new hunters and older hunters, but those new hunters that are getting out there.
Well, obviously you can see the birds a lot better. Number one, and actually, obviously when they're in the grass, you can't see them. But like if you shoot a down bird, you shoot a bird and it goes down, and there's a down bird, you're going to be able to find it a lot better. That's probably that's what I like the most because again, we talked about this. It makes me sick to my stomach to lose a bird. It really does.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
but when there's snow, birds do seem to bunch up more. So you're gonna have bigger flushes. You're gonna have hopefully they sit tighter if they're not have a lot of pressure, but they're gonna sit tighter.
Yep.
And then you can see some of the sign too yourself. You can see pheasant tracks and that kind of stuff. You can see their obviously you'll be able to see their nests maybe a little bit where they bedded down or where they roosted a little bit better. So and for the dog's sake, and I learned this through the canine world. So like even though it's snow or ice, like let's just say that bird is on that area and they were walking and they walk through, but obviously even our January days that we get some powerful sun, that sun's coming down and it starts to melt. And when that starts to melt, that scent starts to lift off the ground. So that's going to make great conditions for our dogs.
Yeah.
And I mean, just think about this. If you ever made some soup and you froze the soup in the freezer, you froze it.
Yep.
You throw it in the pan. You don't smell the soup right away, right? Like it's just a frozen block of ice.
Yep.
When that starts to heat up, you start smelling it. The same thing goes for scent. So, I think it's obviously that helps the dogs.
That is a good point. I never thought of that before.
Track birds and that kind of stuff a little bit. So,
Yeah,
sometimes it can be gnarly out there too when there's snow on the ground. Don't get me wrong.
But blowing snow, cold as shit. Can't feel your fingers.
When you got that January thaw and that that sun's out there pounding on the ground, there's some good things that can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was even telling Nick about this. Like, we talked about slowing down and walking. One thing that happened to me a couple weekends ago, we shot a bird. A bird gets up and we shot it, and it went down. And we couldn't locate it right away, and I got thinking like, God, them dogs should have been there. Like, how did they not find this bird? And you got to think about like that's new. Like that scent hasn't got out of that cover yet, so you got to just maybe it might even be best just to sit there for 20 minutes and let that bird odor bake,
Mm-hmm.
and then okay, let's find out, and then now that new odor is there, but right away that's going to be tough for those birds.
I mean, that just takes me back to last year, South Dakota, that first bird we lost.
Yep.
I immediately thought of that when Matt told us. We shot this bird like a ton of fucking bricks. Went down. I'm thinking, easy, dogs are there. Couldn't find it. We sat there for like, I don't know, 15 minutes, and I think we should have pulled our dogs off, let them rest, sit there for 15 minutes after you tell me that, 20 minutes, whatever, and
Yep.
let them go back in, and that odor would have probably been there, and I bet we would have found that bird.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
And I was telling Nick, it's like, I sometimes, obviously the canine world is different than hunting, but there's a lot of the principles that are the same. So like the way I thought of this after the fact was I'm like, if somebody carries drugs from their house into their car and drives down the street and they get pulled over right away, my drug dog can't smell it. You know what I mean? Like isn't going to pick up that odor because it hasn't had a chance to get out of the car yet. Hasn't had a chance to bake and get out of that yet. So you got to wait, an hour or whatever. Obviously, a car is different than outside. So, but the same thing because that pheasant flew from point A, didn't leave scent to point B. It flew there and landed. So it's got to let it get out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's tough for guys that don't have dogs. When we hunt with people that have dogs, they just want to keep going. Like let's move on. You're like, no, the dog. Let's give it a minute here and let this dog work. Let's just get it figured out.
Yeah, I mean, Sunday with Joey. I mean, this is Damon's place. This is some thick shit. Like it's thicker than the stuff we hunted first on Saturday morning. It is gnarly. I took Diesel back, and I didn't necessarily do what you said, but I had to walk Diesel back to where this bird dropped. I couldn't see anything, and I just kind of sat there, and I said, Joey, mark that, and I'm going to go right to where you said it is, and I'm going to stand there. Walked over there and stood there, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll be held. Diesel came out of it, and the thing was buried. would have never found it. It was
Yeah.
buried deep down in there, and it was completely dead, but it just fell and went all the way to the ground underneath all the weeds and all the brush, and I mean, we would have never found it.
Yeah, they do a great job. Even though they're going to die, they just bury themselves.
Yeah.
It's like their last effort.
Well, was it 2 weeks ago? We hunted this public spot and shot a bird. My cousin shoots his bird, drops it, and we go over there and we cannot find it. And I'm like, what? That bird dropped hard. We look and we look and we look, nothing. So we move on and we swing it, and Hawkeye gets birdie. Like, I mean, birdie. And all of a sudden, he's like pouncing into this tuft of grass, and he's on his belly and he's got his paws down, and I can see two tail feathers sticking straight up by his head. And I'm like, oh, that bird, like the bird we shot didn't die. It ran.
Yeah.
And he's holding this bird with his paws, and he looks up at me like, look what I got, Dad. And as soon as he let his mouth off that thing and looked up, that bird took off running, and we couldn't find it again. It was crazy.
Oh,
It was absolutely insane. They're like, oh, they're like, are you sure you even had a bird? I'm like, I'm holding up the two tail feathers. I'm like, look at it. I'm holding the tail feathers. Like, he actually tracked that thing forever, and
damn.
we couldn't find it. We could not find it. It was crazy. We actually, he went to my uncle, and then my uncle worked Hawkeye, still looking for it, and we couldn't find it. So it was pretty crazy.
Jeez.
That is crazy.
Yeah, we had a similar situation like that 2 weeks ago when we had I think Tyler or Grant shot the bird. Anyway, it ran, and we covered this on a recent podcast, but it ran 100, 150 yards down this like waterway, and we tracked it. Dogs, Diesel, Lola, I almost said or Oakley, and then Murphy, all the way down this waterway. And Diesel pointed one or two times, and then Murph was birdie, and then all of a sudden I saw Lola behind me. All of a sudden she was like pointing, and I'm like, oh hell! So I went back and I actually like kicked it, and then everybody said bird, and I'm swinging, I'm looking in the air. I'm like, where? I don't see it. Well, here the fucker's running on the ground. But then Tyler's dogs ended up pulling that one down and getting that bird. That was the one we shot, injured it.
Yeah, that was cool.
It ran, like I said, 150 yards. I bet it was for so long.
And it like went back and forth on the waterway because you could see the dogs would come out to one side, and then they'd be back to the other side. And it's like it kept seeing us, so it'd just stay in there all the way down.
It always amazes me a bird can run that far, and this is just a waterway, and it wasn't very tall.
Without seeing it.
We couldn't see that damn thing. We never saw it once.
And the colors, it's amazing.
I know. And they have like the perfect camouflage, and that's what we were talking about, being able to, with a little bit of snow, you can see those birds just that much better when they are running like that. Like,
yeah.
That bright colors really stick out.
Yes. Big time. Yeah, no, we had it was funny. Hawkeye had a good retrieve a week ago. His first ever true retrieve for me. We hunted up this spot, kicked up 3 roosters in one little patch, shot all 3 of them. Each, my cousin, and my uncle, we all got birds. And anyway, Hawkeye ran to the right to retrieve the one bird. Well, the bird that I shot hit the ground and was flopping, and he seen that, and he took off running, hits the waterway, goes ass over apple carts, over. It runs over, picks it up, and brings it right back to me. So that was pretty cool. So I was pretty proud.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it just takes a little bit for them to learn and what they want to do. And once they learn that, you're not stealing that bird from them, then they want to bring it back to you, and they'll bring it to you.
What do you guys think so far? Like, obviously you guys are dogs, have been experienced, but are there still some things that when you guys are hunting, that you're seeing like what your dog is doing really good, that you're happy with, that he's maybe got better with, and are there some things that you're like, oh geez, I really know I need to work this, or I gotta do this?
For me, I'd say it's probably a little bit different just because I had Diesel trained by some professionals. I'm happy. I'm completely happy with how he's hunting and what he's doing and how he listens. Sometimes I wish he'd be a little more aggressive to a retrieve. Like, he'll retrieve anything, But sometimes I don't think he is as aggressive as I'd like. But other than that, I mean, I've never had him lose a bird. He always brings it back. The new thing that Diesel started doing that I actually really enjoy watching is he starts winding birds.
I
He
saw
starts
that the other day, and I said, look at it. His nose is straight up, and you could tell that he was trying to
Yeah,
set.
so he doesn't work necessarily as hard as other dogs, I would say anymore. Like he's not just, and I always compare this to Tyler's dog, and it's not a slight because Diesel used to do it too. But Murph comes out of the truck and he's got the zoomies, he's just where Diesel doesn't so much do that anymore. Where he's always using his nose. It's kind of like a deer. He's always scenting to see where the scent's coming from. Um, and had a couple missed opportunities with him there Saturday morning. Jack and I were trying to block for you guys because we kept seeing those birds fly out of that bowl. Well, I was trying to call Diesel back, but we were trying to watch you guys because birds kept kicking up. And I'll be damned, he didn't fucking kick a bird up behind us. A big old rooster. Jack said I didn't see it. Jack told me that. And that's pretty cool that he's winding that from a different direction. I think the biggest thing is just trust your dog. I mean, even young or even an old one, if they know what a pheasant is, trust them. They're gonna find it. But yeah, no, is it Diesel in terms of what he's doing now? I don't. I'm happy with him. I don't think there's anything that I would change. He's in great shape right now, and we're just gonna keep running him. South Dakota Saturday, baby.
Yeah.
What do you think, Tyler? If you had to work on that stuff with your dog?
I I wish that the dogs would hunt how they hunt after 2 hours of hunting.
Oh,
Meaning, sometimes I think when they're right out of the gate, like Nick said, they have a bunch of energy and they kind of just running all over. They're not being as strategic because they're energized and they're like, oh, I'll just run all over and I'll find the birds. Where you get 2 hours into the hunt and they start slowing down, using their nose more. Um, and I think if I was to maybe train a command in the future for them, a lot of people use whoa. I'd use something like a slow down, something like a slow down command. When you recall them back and then you let them release back out to go find birds and they just like take off straight. You know, figuring out a way to, hey, slow down. Go over here first and then come back. I think that would be something that I'll think about working on. Um, it's tough or the one thing that I don't know how people do it, and I've tried reading it, and I think it's something that if you could do it, if you had someone to help you, um, for like running birds, to get your dog to either come off the scent, go straight and like try to re-find it to bring it back, or to like when it's running, have your dog slow down. Our dogs are trained to like go in and flush, so they're usually picking up speed as
right,
that scent's getting hotter. And I've read where you can clip a wing and tie a bird to like a 60-foot hay hay twine, string, and let it run in front of you and keep your dog kind of back. And so that's probably something I'd work on with them. But honestly, if anything, if anybody's with their dogs, I would just say your obedience. You know,
right,
an obedient dog in the field is going to be better than a dog that has a ton of experience in the field but doesn't listen.
right.
You know, so
But just think about that obedience thing, guys. Like we took that picture Saturday after our second hunt of all five of them dogs sitting in
Yep.
front of
yep. We even
three.
had a guy comment and say, "How did you get 5 labs to sit still?" You know, I was just like, "Oh, obviously they're tired," but that, like you said, that comes back to obedience.
It does.
You tell them to sit in one spot and they stay there.
Right,
They know they can't lift their ass up and move.
Yep.
And even if they have full of energy, you should be able to tell them to sit and they just sit there.
yep. Obviously, your time length is not going to be as
Yeah.
long.
No, I mean they literally did it for 30 seconds and then
Yeah,
it was over
enough
with.
to get down and get some
Yep.
pics for the gram. But
No,
What do you
it's really good.
what do you feel like you'd like to work on or see improvements in Hawkeye? Kind of switching the conversation and taking it right back at you, Matt.
Well, so first what Tyler was talking about with the um, bird running, and obviously I think you got to understand the difference between your dog is birdie, like in regards to the dog is birdie, and he is going to flush a bird right where you are, right in your proximity, compared to when the dog, you can tell that dog is running where the bird's running, dog's tracking it.
Yep.
yep,
And so I had an incident just a week ago where we hunted this area, and that the bird was running down the fence line because we seen it flushed, it landed, and we knew that it was down this fence line, so we hunted it. And I actually, it's tough because you're taking the instinct. I'm a big, like, I don't want to take away the instinct of that dog.
Yep.
So the dog is going, dog's working. I knew he was busting his butt working that pheasant that ran, and he started to get too far ahead. And Hawkeye here, he doesn't. And I shocked him. And I use the word hammer. That's not, it's not very painful. There's not much shock. But anyway, and I used the easy. I'm a Hawkeye easy, easy. And after I shocked him, it was like a light bulb clicked on him, and he literally like felt a range. Like he'd go out so far, and then he'd check me, and I'd say okay, and then he'd go again, and it ended up working out perfect.
yep,
So I think what you're saying, a whoa command or an easy command is perfect, and I think
I say easy to diesel. I don't know if you guys hear me say that, but I'm always like easy, and then I yell that, and then he also has the whistle train where I'll three toots on the horn or whatever you want to call it. He always circles back, and that's proved to be true time and time again. Even last year in South Dakota, when, like you said, he wanted to run down this cornfield line, I was able just to keep him in check just with that whistle and just like the easy command. I don't hardly ever have to shock diesel ever.
right. But to answer your question, I'm really happy with his obedience in regards to him listening, coming back to me. When
Yep.
I want him to come here, he's coming to me. So that's awesome. But I wish he would stay focused more. Like if there's a down bird and he's birdie and somebody whistles or somebody talks or whatever else, he'll be like, "Oh, what?" And he'll just look up, and then it's over with for him. And I think so. I just want him to stay focused more when he's birdie. I hope that he can grow into this where he's just continues to work that scent until there's no more scent to work. So,
Yeah, I guess I don't know that I've had an experience like that with any of my dogs, but I would contribute. I think it's just got to be age. I mean,
hmm
that's what I would think.
I mean, I just can chalk it up to that dog has ADD. I mean, that's what it is right now.
Yeah, but I mean, for being just over a year, man, I
he's
mean,
doing good.
he's doing really good.
And again, guys, we can go on and forever, but we've been able to put a lot of birds under his nose. And
Yep.
I don't care what kind of dog it is. You were able to put a lot of birds under a dog's nose and you're set. Man, you're set.
Yep.
Yep. Did you take him to a pheasant farm yet this year?
I haven't.
You
No.
didn't?
I mean, just one time, but again, we're knock on wood. We went out and hunted out by near Chipola, Iowa last Wednesday, Sweet Marsh. A lot of great looking ground out there, guys. Holy cow, there's a lot of ground out there. We got skunked, and I don't even know if we actually pulled the trigger, but we saw birds. It wasn't like we didn't see birds. We saw lots of hens. So we just didn't get it, and we saw some roosters, but everything was real flighty, super
Yep.
windy today, and then obviously it's public ground, so there was a lot of people, I think. So
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I do have some exciting news. South Dakota this weekend, and we also locked up. Josh texted me today. We locked up a place to hunt last weekend, the 9th and 10th. That's the last hunting days of the season. Locked it up.
Nice.
So he texted me. So just informing you guys on here. We've had great luck there. I'm sure we can do it again. We've limited out once already, and the last time we should have limited out, and you know how things go. A few misses, and that's it.
Yeah.
The misses is what makes it fun, though. I think
Oh, for sure.
that way we can give people shit when they miss. They got to buy more beer or whatever.
Yeah,
Fuck, I'd be broke.
I owe one. I already bought that one. I bought it today, so I'm bringing that to South Dakota.
Mine's is just a can per can, not case. Case is way too many. We're doing cans for me.
Tyler can pick up his own rules as they go.
Yeah. Next, I'll be doing shots of beer.
And next year we're gonna have Matt go with us to South Dakota. So we're gonna have another dog, be another year more experienced. So it'll be a hell of a time.
Yeah, no, it just didn't work out this year. I'm excited. I'm really excited about next year. It's gonna be
Should be good.
Yeah.
Hopefully we have the weather cooperate so the bird population can continue to grow.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
Agreed.
absolutely.
That's a big thing. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, Matt, we appreciate you having us on. We appreciate you taking us under your wing and giving us some property to join you on and snag a few birds. Like I said, it was fun to reminisce about old times, but make some new memories. And we're going to make many more yet coming up, a couple more this year and next year in South Dakota.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Hey,
All right.
Flushman Dustin. Take care, guys.
Later.
Thanks, Matt.